Coup d'etats, more often than not, are complicated affairs. That's why the Cline Center for Advanced Social Research hosts extensive international coup data that covers the complexity of various coups since 1945. One such event is the Romanian Revolution of 1989. Hello, my name is Francesca Dumitrescu, and I'm the Communications Intern for the Cline Center. I'm also Romanian, and I've grown up with stories of the Romanian Revolution as my parents were around my age when the revolution occurred in their hometown of Bucharest, Romania. Debates on how much of it was a coup or revolution have persisted since the event itself. In fact, there's a saying in Romanian that combines the words coup d'etat and revolution into something like coup-volution. That's why I think it's interesting to unpack the story of what happened in Romania and why the Cline Center has classified this revolution as a coup. What was the Romanian Revolution? On Christmas Day in 1989, the communist dictator Nicolae Ceaușescu was executed by firing squad, signaling a drastic turn in Romania's political history as the communist regime of almost 50 years came to an end. But what led up to this event, and why is it classified as a coup in the center's database? According to the Cline Center, Romania witnessed a realized coup in which there was a popular revolt and the deposed executive was arrested, tried, and killed. To fully understand these classifications and what led to this event, we will begin in the aftermath of World War II, when the Communist Party of Romania came to a full ascension of power. For some international context, note that Romania was not part of the USSR, but was a satellite state. It was occupied by Soviet forces from 1944 to 1958, and afterwards Ceaușescu made deliberate moves to gain political and economic independence from the USSR from Romania. However, the period of occupation had triggered an adoption of Soviet military and political structures, and it was during this period that a communist government following the Soviet model was established. Nicolae Ceaușescu had been active in communist youth movements and eventually the Communist Party since the early 1930s. As the protege of early Romanian communist leader Gheorghe Gheorghiu-Dej, Ceaușescu would go on to succeed him after his death as the leader of the Communist Party and eventually became president in 1974. After Soviet occupation, Ceaușescu skillfully balanced an appeal to Western states while rejecting Western practices and values in his own government and nation. Some reports have even called him the West's, quote, favorite communist. It was under Ceaușescu's command when free speech and media was increasingly monitored and censored. Abortion and birth control was outlawed, leading to skyrocketing rates of maternal mortality. There were extreme shortages of food, fuel, energy, and medicines, ultimately leading to the increased poverty of the Romanian people, while Ceaușescu and his family, as well as the elites of Romania, lived comfortably. Among all this, the Securitate, or the secret police, was used as an aggressive tool to enforce Ceaușescu's policies and snuff out any opposing people or forces. Romania became a police state. Ceaușescu had brought a return to strict ideological orthodoxy, and the power he held as the leader of the Communist Party of Romania devolved into a dictatorship by the 1970s. Evidently, there were enough reasons for people to be displeased with their government and leadership. By December of 1989, there seemed to be a combination of uprisings from the public and a conspiracy from within Ceaușescu's own government that led to what we call the Romanian Revolution. Officially, revolts started in the city of Timișoara on the 16th of December, when anti-government protesters gathered to protect a dissenting minister. On the 17th, Ceaușescu ordered security forces to fire on the protesters, which only led to more widespread protests. The news was spread across the country. Ceaușescu, in what some have called a very foolish act, called for a rally in Bucharest, the capital, on the 21st of December. The goal was to regain support for the dictator, but control was lost as protests broke out throughout the crowd that day. Protests continued across the country as Ceaușescu and his wife tried to flee unsuccessfully. During this period, the most consistent source of information was the national radio station called Broadcasting House, which was referred to as, quote, the heart of the nation once it was successfully passed into civilian hands. On Christmas Day of 1989, Nicolae Ceaușescu and his wife Elena were tried by a military tribunal, in which they were found guilty and executed, marking the end of their long reign. The power vacuum left behind was filled by the National Salvation Front, the NSF, a newly formed council led by Ion Iliescu, a former Ceaușescu ally. Many officials aligned with Ceaușescu resigned from government, and others shifted to the NSF. And so began a complicated new path towards democracy. There continues to be much discourse over whether the events in Romania were a coup d'etat or a pure revolution, especially because the NSF was made up of former communist officials. Ion Iliescu served as the acting head of state and then was elected in Romania's first open voting in over 40 years. However, there have been investigations into Iliescu about his involvement in the violence that occurred during and after the day Ceaușescu was executed. Nevertheless, Romania has changed since 1989 and has been able to remain triumphant in the face of dictatorship. Despite facing continued economic struggles, political instability, and corruption, Romania has developed since its time under totalitarian communist rule. The nation officially joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in 2004 and joined the European Union in 2007. These have contributed to its economic and political growth as a democratic nation. The events of the Romanian Revolution are still discussed and debated as important moments in history. With the Cline Center's classification of this event as a coup d'etat, we can better understand complex events such as this. Thank you so much for tuning in to learn about this historical coup event. Here at the Cline Center, we continue to track coup events worldwide, and you can find out more about how we track coups and what coups have occurred via interactive maps and lists in the link in the description down below. You can also find us on LinkedIn at the Cline Center for Advanced Social Research, on X at Cline Center, and on Blue Sky at cline-center.bsky.social. Here you can learn more about our team and the work we do. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel and keep a lookout for more videos such as this one. You can also view our last video, which is about a coup d'etat in Brazil. My name is Francesca, and thank you again for watching.